Welcome to this week's episode. We're going to talk about the RS3. Now, this review or conversation is about 3 years too late for a lot of people, but this car is still relevant. And I want to talk about why this type of car has transformed people into car people, why it's still relevant today, and why this particular car has made Yasmina into a car girl. Well, obviously the looks is definitely one of the main reasons. This car looks fantastic. All Audis look great, but the RS3 is really aggressive, and it just makes sense. I love the shape of this car, and Yasmina does too. The size of it is perfect. It's just got a little hot pocket car. Now, another reason why she did tell us in our interview is the fact that this car makes 400 horsepower. Audi definitely undersells the power level in this car, but let's just say it does make 400 horsepower. It's really fast, and the ability to go really fast in this car isn't just the fact that a stock car is fast. This car can be fast when you modify it, and a lot of people do end up modifying this car. And it's just one of those cars that you can have 400 horsepower, it'll be fun, and you can have 1,000 horsepower, and it's absolutely a rocket ship. Now, I'm not sure if Yasmina is gonna go as far as making 1,000 horsepower with it, but she definitely will modify it and has modified it visually. She has some Can Auto Performance parts here, nice little spoiler, a diffuser. She said she was gonna get a side skirts. She hasn't got those on yet because it's winter. Winter wheels and the front lip. I really like the front lip. It makes the car really aggressive, and I think once she gets the side skirts on, it's definitely gonna tie everything together. Now, outside it looks great. Inside this car, it's got some nice features. Like the steering wheel is phenomenal. The seats are great. Definitely more comfort than sport. They're not as huggy as some other seats in other race cars because this is a very racy car. The suspension is really stiff, so the seats don't really match the same personality, but they look great. Now, Yasmina told us that she was looking at an S3 initially. An S3 is not as good of a car as the RS3. It's just fact. And I'm glad that she chose the RS3, and I think she made the right choice. Now, let's find out what she loves about the car.
Coming with the power that you can potentially bring, 700 horsepower, 850, 1,000, it's very, like for a car like ours, I feel like it's actually fairly easy to kind of get there with the correct builds, of course. And so I feel like with that potential, maybe I can see myself doing it for myself down the road. And yeah, that would be a lot. That'd be a lot of fun. That would be.
We asked Yasmina what she doesn't like about the car, and the answer was the seats.
So you know what? I understand the perspective of weight reduction.
Because the car, I know you said it's light, and it is light for being all-wheel drive, but 3,600 pounds, you would think manual seats.
Yeah, and then for what comes with the car and what it is, it's like really like I gotta pump it up to bring me up and down. But I mean, realistically, most of the time I'm usually the only driver, so it's fairly easy for me. But then if like the one case that like my mom would drive it, she'd move the seat. I mean, it's a little bit of a struggle, but it doesn't kill me really. I mean, you know what? I look at the power it brings and how light the seats are. I'm okay with it overall. It doesn't bother me. I'm okay with it. So I've learned to love it.
Now, it's not the seat itself, it's the fact that it's not actually a powered seat. And the S3 and the A3 have power seats, but this car doesn't. And I mean, 3,600 pounds, how much weight are you really saving? So I'm in her driving position, and it's quite close, obviously. And if I want to go to my driving position, I have to pump it up or down, quite a far away. And then I have to push it back with a lever, and then I have to get my hand behind this impossible roller. Yeah, there we go. So that took a while, and with the door closed, the problem just becomes much worse. And if you're actually driving and trying to adjust your seat, it's pretty much impossible. So I can see why she doesn't like that aspect of the car. So she has a sticker on her car, it says ASG. I believe it means Audi Sport Group, and she's part of this group. She loves it. And she has reason to. She's very loved in the group. She has great interactions with a lot of people, and she's gotten a lot of love and support. This car just invites that kind of behavior from people, and being a car girl, it's definitely helped her out a lot. Now, she wasn't a car girl to start, but this car has definitely turned her into a car girl, and well, yeah, because it's a great car. So I'm very excited that she has embraced the community. I'm excited that she loves cars, and this is one of those cars that does change people. With that being said, now let's find out how it drives. can see why this car is still relevant. Going through these corners, it just feels really responsive. At the edge, the nose does push a little bit away, but if you keep it in its happy spot, it's actually really, really fun to drive. And yeah, Yasmina's totally right. This car is one of those special cars that is very fun to drive. I mean, the RS3 has been reviewed a lot, and this being stock, it can only be fun through the corners. Going in a straight line, 400 horsepower, yeah, it's fast, it's quick, it's not fast, it's quick, but it can be very, very fast. And that potential, that sense of that you can do whatever you want with this car is what people buy it. And it's got this transmission that just reads your mind. It's so fast. Probably one of the best transmissions Audi makes. This dual clutch just responds so well. It's like shift, shift, shift. Every single time you want a gear, just gives it to you. And that gives you really good control and really good feel driving it aggressively. Through the RPM band at 5,000 RPM, there's a sweet spot where it just has this little extra kick right at red line. I really like that, but you have to hunt for that spot. Stock, the car doesn't want you to be as excited as people get with these cars. But once you do an ECU TCU tune with this car and maybe a few more upgrades like intercoolers and turbo inlets and such, you can go from 400 horsepower to 550 horsepower so fast. It's almost absolutely natural to the car to actually have more horsepower. The rest of it is great. It really is ready for that. It's really ready for that next step. It's got huge brakes to make sure the power's in check. Now, she's gonna do things to this car to make it faster, and I can't wait to see that process of her next step, as we talked about earlier. But even as is, you know, I say it's quick, it's not too fast, but it's so fun to drive. This is a really good chassis. The steering wheel gives you such good feedback where you want to place the car exactly where you want. You want to dodge something, it's just so nimble, it does it. You know, we're being followed by an Audi RS7 right now, and I can see him trying to dodge the same potholes, and the body just feels so big. This feels so nimble. I really like that agile feeling, and I'm sure Yasmina does too. 11.8 at 116 miles per hour is not necessarily super fast, but it's fast enough to be fun. And the fact that it can go into a low 11 second or a flat 11 just with a couple of bolt-ons, that's just incredible. It's almost a full second faster than stock, and it feels like it's meant to do that. The whole chassis is prepared for that next step. It's prepared for that 700-800 horsepower car that it can be. And I've driven 900 horsepower variants of this car. That car ran the quarter mile at 9.9 at 144 miles per hour. It felt like it took your breath away. Now, granted, I had to drive it with a racing helmet and a bunch of other safety measures. It had no exhaust. The exhaust was like this short, and it was super loud, and it had basically no interior. It was in a carbon seat that's 6 pounds and pretty much just a piece of carbon with a little bit of cushion. But it doesn't have to be that extreme. I don't think it has to be that extreme to have fun with this car, but it can do that. And then there are performance shops that have gotten this car into the 9s, into the 8s. 8-second quarter miles. That is just something else. 8-second quarter mile. It's so fast that I'm not sure you can even drive that on the road. I mean, most 8-second cars are really not road legal, but the 9-second variants of it, definitely road legal, definitely extremely fast and very fun to drive. Later in our show, we are going to try and bring you guys a 1,000 horsepower version that is a daily car. Now, obviously Canada, winter, can't do that right now, but in the summertime we're going to try and get that car going from 400 horsepower to 1,000 horsepower in a daily car. That's just, I can't even envision what that's going to be like, especially because I drove the 900 one on the track and that just felt incredibly fast. 1,000 is just going to be insane, and that's meant to be a daily driver, like driven every single day. I don't think Yasmina's gonna go that far with this car, but whatever visually she's done to it, I really dig it. I know it's on the winter wheels right now, but the carbon lip, carbon spoiler, and the diffuser really add something to it. Not that the car really needed it, but it just spices it up enough that you can turn around and look. Because people that park their cars and they walk away and they don't look back, they've made the wrong choice. There's not a single time she says that she parks it and she doesn't look back and be like, that is a sexy car. And it really is a sexy car. It's a very simple interior, and that's nice because it doesn't distract you from how fast this car is. It just lets you look in front of you, and you need that, especially if you plan on having a lot of power in these cars. You need a simple interior not to take away from your driving experience. So I don't think this car is about the interior anyways. People who really faulted for that, they're missing the point. Problems that I personally have with this car, other than the size, which is obviously not a changeable thing, is the seats. They're fantastic for the people in the front. They're just not so great for visibility for people in the back. If you sit in the back of this car, these seats are so huge and so bolstered that you can't really see out of it. It's just, in a Golf R, you sit in the back and there's almost no difference between visibility in the back and in the front. In this car, if you sit in the back, you really feel very claustrophobic. And then the other issue I have with this car is the fuel mileage. Now this is an actual issue because it's got a tiny fuel tank, and a tiny fuel tank mated with a car that is thirsty is a recipe for you visiting the gas station so frequently it actually becomes a nuisance. I mean, Yasmina's telling me she's on first name basis with her gas attendant, and I believe her. We've been driving this car for all of, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, and we've consumed 150 kilometers worth of range. We haven't done 150 kilometers, I can tell you that. And the problem gets so much worse when you modify it, especially when you run E85 blends. E85 gets consumed much quicker than normal fuel, therefore you get even worse fuel mileage. Performance car, sure, fuel mileage, it's definitely not a priority, and for most people it isn't, but it's a stock car. For a stock car, it's actually pretty bad. So, I mean, living with it every day, I guess it's a passable problem considering how good the rest of the car is. I want to say fuel mileage is something I would definitely warn people about. In conclusion, what makes the RS3 a special car? What makes the RS3 that car that makes it a once-in-a-generation car? I think personally it's the fact that it's so versatile. It gives you so much potential, and that potential is what people buy it for. If you want a stock car that's fun at 7/10ths, it does it. If you want a car that 550 horsepower with just a little bolt-on here and there, it got you. If you want a car that is a supercar challenging car, well, yeah, I mean, you're gonna need to modify it a little bit, but I mean, it can do it. It can challenge actual supercars. And if you really go all out, you can beat cars like 720S's, which are some of the fastest supercars out there. And just what more could you want from a platform? This is one of those cars that Audi is paying homage to people that really love cars. This car is made for enthusiasts. Yasmina was not a car person before. Once she got into this platform, she became a car person. And that kind of car is really rare. It doesn't come by very often. And this is one of those cars. The RS3 is the car that brings community together. And the Audi community is very RS3 biased. There's so many of these things everywhere in Toronto that it just kind of makes you wonder, why are people still modifying it? There's tuners that are releasing new software for this car. It's still relevant 3 years later. It makes sense why the Audi group is full of these. These are cars that offer endless potential at a variety of ranges, where you can drive it stock and modified and everybody loves them, and it brings people together and is just such a good platform to be introduced into the car world, because it's not fast enough to intimidate you, but it can be super fast for the really hardcore enthusiasts. And tying those two ends together so well makes the RS3 special, and that's why it's a relevant car 3 years later. Well, that's why people like us are still excited to drive it 3 years later. So with that thought, I'm gonna end this video that we're showing you guys the stock version on one end, and soon, when the weather permits it, we're going to show you guys the 1,000 horsepower version, just to compare the experiences. This feels like it was a great, fun car to drive every day. I can't wait to see what that car is going to feel like to drive every day, the 1,000 horsepower version. I'm very excited. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and like the video if you like it. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.